welcome back to Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. My name is Candice Marie. Thanks for joining me. I'll be your astrologer today. We are going to be discussing Mars's ingress into the sign of Scorpio, taking you guys through all of the various aspects that this planet is going to be making throughout this particular trek. And if you guys stay tuned till the end, we will be taking a look at how it's impacting each and every one of the 12 rising signs. I hope you guys are doing well. Please do not forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Give me a thumbs up. Make sure you click that bell button below so you're alerted as to when we have new videos coming out on the channel. Any interaction is really helpful in helping the channel grow. And if you guys like my content, consider booking a reading with me or donating to my channel or joining my memberships to make it possible for me to continue to be a full-time content creator. Well, we have got this really big ingress that's going to be taking place in just a couple days. Mars is going to be leaving Libra, bidding farewell to all of these really intense aspects between the South Node and Pluto, and finally moving into a sign where it can get some work done. So in my mind, yeah, this is actually going to be quite a beneficial transit. We are going to see a lot of aspects going on between Mars and outer planets. So keep that in mind. There's going to be a lot kind of going on throughout this particular transit. And Mars is going to be in the sign of Scorpio from October 11th through November 24th, 2023. Now, if you are a natal Aries or Scorpio rising, you're going to be feeling this transit the most because Mars is connected to your rising sign as it's one of your rulers. And equally, if you have any personal planets that are in Scorpio, you'll be experiencing a Mars conjunction, or if it's your natal Mars, you'll be having a Mars return. I'm calling this video the courage to change. I was like, I've got to double check there. The courage to change. I'm going to explain to you guys why as we kind of take a look at Mars in this particular sign. Now, themes that we see with Mars moving through Scorpio is intensity. Okay, so we're going to be seeing lots of intensity with this transit. Mars has associations both with Aries as well as Scorpio, but this is a very different vibe. We've got Mars moving through now a fixed water sign. So if you have a natal Mars in Scorpio, or if you are somebody who's got maybe like a lot of planets in the 8th house or Mars in the 8th house, you're used to this intensity. And it's about approaching things with intensity throughout these next couple of weeks. Now, this particular ingress is going to give us the opportunity to have more determination and the ability to really focus, especially emotionally or intuitively, on our goals or our desires. Really, it's about not being afraid to go after what we want, and many of us might be finding that we're going to great lengths to achieve what it is that we hope to achieve, or in this case, I think change. Now, passion is a word that comes up a lot for Scorpio placements, especially with Mars being in this sign. This is going to allow many of us to get in touch with our passions, especially when it comes to our desires and interests. We might find that we're throwing ourselves wholeheartedly into whatever we're pursuing. So you got to really look at which part of your chart Scorpio is in. For some of us, it'll be career, others it'll be relationships, or maybe even hobbies. And another word that comes up for me when I think about Mars and Scorpio is determination. These individuals who have this natally have a strong will and unwavering determination. They're persistent and not easily kept back by obstacles or setbacks, and they're often willing to face challenges head on. There is a sense of having foresight, also being able to know how to kind of navigate. It's very like art of war. Now, we do see that competitiveness comes up with Mars transits, but especially when it's in the sign of Scorpio, we might find that we're feeling a little bit more competitive in the area of our chart where Mars is moving through. And it's also bringing about a strong desire to succeed, to win, to excel. So likely this can give us the much needed oomph, a little bit of a push to really help us be able to meet our goals. For some of us, it might be about overextending ourselves. And I always get personally being a natal Mars and Scorpio myself, I always find myself really fascinated by other people who have this because I notice just the amount of emotional depth that they have. Because Scorpio is known for emotional depth, when Mars is moving through this sign, this intensifies. So our emotional experiences can be much more profound, much more intense. And we might be feeling that, we are curious or cautious, like I should say, about how to express these energies, because Scorpio energy is much more hidden and it's much more private. So we may be finding that the desires or the passions that are coming up for us right now, or the fears that are coming up for us right now, we're trying to determine whether or not we let other people in on what we're feeling. And yeah, that'll definitely be playing out in the world. You're going to see a lot of like secretive stuff that might be coming to the surface. Desire to control is another theme that we see with Mars and Scorpio, because I feel like Scorpio is one of the signs that has a real fixation with control and power as well. So with this particular transit, we might be noticing that there's a strong desire to want to control various aspects of our life. You might be finding that it is not just in the Scorpio area, but it's also in the Pisces area, because we're going to start the transit off with a connection to Saturn. So we might be feeling drawn to, controlling our careers, controlling our boundaries, our barriers, our limits. And this might be physically or emotionally. Okay, emotional is going to be a word that I'm going to use a lot throughout this video, because we're going to be seeing these water trines, and it's going to be about our emotions and our sensitivities as well. We might be feeling also that there are tendencies to want to exert influence of control over areas in our life this month also. Now, Mars is a sexual sign, a sexual planet. It does deal with, masculinity. It does deal with passion and desire. Remember, Mars is a linear planet that wants to kind of go after, cut, attack, or be possessive over something in the sign of Scorpio. So we can definitely see a lot more kind of heightened passions and sexual desires throughout this transit. And we might be finding that we're approaching intimacy with intensity, and we might be more so highly attuned to emotional and sexual dynamics within relationships. Now, Mars is great for investigation, for research, and I love seeing Mars in Scorpio because it gives us the opportunity to dig deep beneath the surface. So if you're somebody who has it natally, or if you're just wanting to make the most of this transit, you might be finding that there's an opportunity to do, research that's much more focused on kind of getting to the core of problems, being able to uncover hidden truths. And ultimately, I think this is giving us the courage to be able to say, hey, I want to change this thing. I want to transform this thing. But you might also be using it to do like research and investigation in other areas as well. And because Scorpio has associations with transformation, really, I think the name of the game with this particular transit is about confronting our own limitations and making the necessary changes to evolve and to grow. We only have Mars in the sign for about 6 weeks, and we see Mars come through Scorpio about once every 18 months or so. It takes about 1.5 years to fully go through the Mars cycle. So Mars does very well when it's in Scorpio, when it's in Capricorn, when it's in Aries, and we're going to see all of these transits in this next year. So I think that it's going to be a well-welcomed shift because it's really allowing us to do the necessary kind of clearing out or cutting out or purging or confronting some of the things that we need to better achieve our North Node. However, you guys want to watch for conflict and power dynamics, and I know that you're over it. We've been hearing about this really this whole last week or so with all these squares between Pluto and Mars in Libra. But Mars in Scorpio can definitely have issues with power struggles and conflicts because it has this energy of needing to assert itself and not being afraid of confronting other people when they believe that it's necessary. So there can be conflict. We can see conflict arising also over secretive behavior and people not revealing their true intentions. So when Mars is in Scorpio, there can be like a sense of poking and prodding people or situations a little bit more. And you're definitely going to see some sparks fly when we see Mars getting up in the degrees, making oppositions to Jupiter as well as Uranus. That's going to be quite reactionary and quite combative. As we look through Mars's trek, I'm going to take you through all of the transits that I think are the most significant for the next 6 weeks. I want to remind you guys that as we start this particular ingress, like I said, we're coming off of what has been a very intense Mars square Pluto transit. It goes back to, Mars conjunct the South Node, the beginning of October, reflecting on karma and relationships, cutting ties with people, noticing that there's imbalances or things that don't feel right. Then we see Mars come into a square with Pluto, which has been taking place this last weekend. And then we see Mars hit that 29 critical degrees. So it's reactivating the eclipse that we had in April of this year. So there's so many things baked into the astrology of this week that makes it just so explosive. It's not one thing or another. And then we see Mars enter into 0 degrees of Scorpio. So that's going to be on the 11th. Now, 0 degrees is the purest form of that particular energy that's being expressed. And so one thing I find funny is people always ask me, like, well, what's the difference between Mars in Aries versus Mars in Scorpio? And I feel like where Mars in Aries is cardinal, it's active, it's fire. So it's, I am initiating, I am starting, I am fighting, I am giving life to something. It's our natural impulsive instincts. It's very primal. Oftentimes we don't think about stuff before we react with Aries. And with Scorpio, we've got now Mars moving into a fixed water sign. So being that it's fixed, off the bat, it's already different than a cardinal sign. It's not just going to react, it's going to think about something. If you guys have Scorpio placements, or if you have a heavy Pluto or Mars signature, you know that Mars Scorpio energy, it's strategic, right? It's intuitive, it plots, it thinks about things before it does something. Scorpio is a sign that is associated with what is subterranean, underground, secretive, subconscious, and it is also connected to the underworld. So there is some sense of having a little bit of, strategic tendencies when it's in the sign before it decides to attack. And it's also feminine, so it is receptive. So we have Mars going through a feminine sign. So at least it's receptive to working with the intuition before it's taking any kind of action. So when I think of like Mars in Scorpio, I think of like boiling water. I don't think of cool, calm, collected waters, like Pisces or Cancer. I think of like a boiling pot and the pressure that is kind of building. And what I like about Mars moving through a water sign also is that it teaches us that water has the ability to kind of clear, purge, or heal something. So those of you guys who are interested in like hot baths and soaks and detoxes and cleanses, this is a wonderful time to be doing it throughout this particular transit. So we're coming off of what's been some squares, which obviously out in the world has been producing war, conflict, and lots of power struggles. But as Mars moves into Scorpio and hits 0 degrees, the first aspect it's going to be making is a trine to Saturn. So I keep looking at the beginning and the ending of this transit. Mars starts with a trine to Saturn, which is like chef's kiss, very stabilizing, really positive for committing to goals, timelines, and also Saturn in Pisces is about making our dreams a reality. Now, towards the end of the transit, we're going to see then Mars come into a trine with Neptune and a sextile to Pluto, which is also a very positive aspect. I see this as being an opportunity to really focus on ending or exposing or healing or dissolving something, because these are all themes that we think of when we think of Neptune. And then the sextiles to Pluto is also going to be about empowering or being able to expose, right? Scorpio is about exposing. Pluto direct crime or manipulation or power struggles, or I keep thinking of like, something that is like potentially threatening or like poisonous. So both the beginning and the end of the transit, in my mind, seem very, very positive. And these water trines are ripe with the opportunity to be more so in touch with our emotions, our psychic abilities, but they are rather intense. The other thing to think about is as we go through these transits, remember that Mars is the ruler of the North Node. And for the next year and a half, the North Node is in Aries, and we're really focusing on getting in touch with our true selves. what we are most passionate about, where we are taking action, where we're more physically active, where we're more aware of our own needs and self-sufficiency. So Scorpio and Aries do not have the easiest relationship because they created in conjunct to one another. So if you're somebody who has an in conjunct in your chart, you know that this kind of represents a blind spot or where there is like a hidden opportunity, but you have to become aware of it to be able to work with it. So as we see Mars go through Scorpio, whenever it's coming into around 17 or 24 degrees, it's kind of like subliminally at odds with the North Node. And Mars will be 8 houses away from Aries, which means there's something that needs to be cut away, transformed. It needs to be dealt with. We need to have the courage to face it. We need to be willing to cut or sever something, or change or transform something. And so it can require a great deal of emotional strength. That is Mars in Scorpio. So I don't want you to just look at, Scorpio in your chart. Like, yes, Mars going through there is going to be extra oomph. You're going to have a lot more capabilities of getting things done in this area. You're going to notice, the pace of that house is going to quicken. You might notice that you're more tapped in and you're able to get more stuff done. But I also want you to be thinking about how that area of your chart needs some kind of action. It needs work. It needs to do something that is going to better enable and allow the North Node in Aries to really come into fruition in the spring. So don't just look at Scorpio, also look at Aries. Now, an inconjunct aspect, also known as a quincunx, is when these two planets form a 150-degree angle to one another. And essentially what this is going to do is create some kind of like disharmony. So where Scorpio is a water sign ruled by Pluto and Mars, and it has that association with transformation, depth, and the subconscious, Aries is a fire sign ruled by Mars, and this is about initiation, assertiveness, and independent. So what you're going to see here is like a conflict of styles, right? And so where Scorpio is more sensitive and emotional and Aries is more kind of like action-packed, we might feel that there's something that's like at odds in our life between these two areas of our chart. Scorpio's secret and probing nature may clash with Aries' direct and assertive approach, and Aries might want to charge ahead with something, while Scorpio might want to dive deep into the motivations of the underlying issue. Quite literally, to give you guys an example, Scorpio can be dealing with wealth and power, resources, oil, things revolving around money to be made, especially from investments. Aries is dealing with war, anything in regards to conflict. If you take a look at what's going on in the world over the next couple of weeks, you're going to find that there is a lot of money to be made in war. It's definitely going to have some impacts, I think, to the price of gas as well as oil, because Scorpio rules these areas, and we're going to see trines to Neptune, which deals with foreign places, and in conjuncts to the North Node in Aries, and where individuals are suffering as a result of the fact that there is some secret motive revolving around driving up prices and creating conflict. After all, Mars is the planet of war. Now we're going to see some resistance to change, 100%. That's what you see with an inconjunct. Scorpio has this association with change and transformation, and Aries is really focused on initiating new ventures. So the inconjunct is going to show where there is resistance to change or a struggle between embracing transformation and pushing forward with new beginnings. The truth is that in order to embrace these new beginnings, we have to be willing to change, transform, or transmute something this season before we get to that point. Now, likely you're going to see that there's definitely going to be some hidden tension. I think anything that's hidden or subconscious is Scorpio, but when you see these two in this angle, you're going to see that Scorpio's desire to control something is almost inhibiting Aries' need for independence, and you're going to see some hidden power struggles between these two houses. Now, the key here is that adjustments are needed. Inconjunct aspects give us the opportunity to, be flexible, make adjustments as needed. If you're somebody who has this inconjunct aspect, you know that it's about striking a balance between the two signs. And learning to integrate these energies can lead to stronger personal growth and a much more harmonious expression of these two qualities. Now, the key here is problem solving, right? So that definitely comes up with an inconjunct. giving you the opportunity to solve a complex issue by facing deep-seated fears and desires before moving forward and taking new initiative. So it's pretty fair to say that this is the season of change. Eclipses are coming. We're seeing Mars that's going to be making planetary aspects to outer planets. I don't know about you guys, but like I feel like the traditional, Roman calendar doesn't really work. Like the new year is really dead of winter. So personally, I like to set intentions either like around winter solstice as we see the sun's ingress into Capricorn, or I like to do work with the springtime here in the Northern Hemisphere as we start to see planets come into Aries and we experience the spring equinox. So I'm personally choosing to go at this from being like, okay, the next couple of months is about wrapping something up, strategizing, clearing things out, trying to purge and face certain issues, certain problems. So that way, when I get to about March of 2024, I'm going to feel better prepared, stronger, ready to go, especially with setting some intentions as we're coming into eclipse season in 2024. You guys may benefit from doing the same thing, right? The whole purpose of astrology is to know when is the best time to embrace certain energies or what the forecast looks like. We've got some stuff that's going to be going down. I mean, as we get into Sag season, we're also going to be seeing a number of squares to Saturn, and and Capricorn season is also going to boast a Mercury retrograde. So if this were me, and this is how I'm choosing to handle this, right now is kind of the clearing out, like dealing with problems period. When Mars gets into Capricorn later in the new year, and as we start to see planets coming into Pisces and Aries in the spring, that's a better time to be launching stuff, okay? All right, so we're going to start first with October the 13th. So as you know, Mars moves into Scorpio on the 11th, but it won't be until technically the 13th that we're going to see the exact trine between Mars and Saturn. But honestly, like this is like splitting hairs here. You're going to have this aspect for a couple of days, so you can definitely work with it from the day that Mars ingresses into the sign of Scorpio. But Mars will be coming into a trine with Saturn. This is an amazing aspect. It's definitely something that I recommend working with. What we see when these two planets align is basically determination and discipline. So Mars represents action and energy and ambition, while Saturn represents discipline, responsibility, and structure. Granted, Saturn's retrograde, but still, it's giving you the opportunity to commit to something, whether that's timelines or professional goals, spiritual goals, emotional goals, cutting things out, clearing, whatever. When these two planets are in a trine aspect, it suggests that you have the ability to combine the two energies for careful planning and self-control. So this can make an amazing opportunity for determination and discipline when it comes to pursuing your goals. This is also baked into the solar eclipse in Libra. So as we see that solar eclipse coming through, granted it's not ruled by Mars, it's ruled by Venus, and Venus is opposed Saturn. Mars is trining it. So it's basically saying the willingness to combat certain problems, exposing things, clearing things out, getting to the bottom of things, doing research, can allow you to better commit to some of your professional goals. And in the background, the dispositor of Saturn is actually Jupiter, right? So Jupiter is in the sign of Taurus. So it can be about strategizing how you're investing money, paying off debt, setting money aside, saving things, because that's really what Scorpio is all about. Now, another theme that you're going to see is patience and endurance, because Saturn is known for being patient. When you experience a trine between Saturn and Mars, it's taking Mars's impulsive tendencies and kind of tapering it off a little bit. And it allows you to work steadily and persistently towards your objective rather than just rushing into something without a plan. So it's going to allow you to take carefully, planned, strategic, moves to being able to complete your goal. So this is where you want to look at where Scorpio is in your chart. You're taking some kind of move, action, maybe investment, and it's going to help you achieve what you're hoping to achieve in the area of Pisces. Now, this is likely going to definitely give you productive efforts because it does basically indicate that as you combine these two energies together, it's going to lead to long-term success, okay? And you're not going to be, thrown off by setbacks or obstacles. You're going to be willing to kind of put forth the effort and the work to achieve long-term goals. So this is not a trine where you're like, I want to make, $1,000 this week. It's like, how can I take savings, weekly over the next 6 months and then like have my debt paid off or, have enough for an investment. It's about kind of slow and steady wins the race. And this is about steady progress because you're taking that patient and disciplined approach. It can be also really positive for, various aspects of life, like career, personal projects, physical fitness, to steadily work towards some of these goals. And for me, it's also about emotional control, okay? So Saturn and Mars in a trine, Saturn's influence is going to help with emotions, especially in the sign of Pisces. I really feel like a lot of people can better deal with, transform, and transmute anger and frustration by meditation. Being in water, going swimming, working with sound healing, all of these things that Saturn and Pisces can do, breaking up some kind of energy or some kind of vibe that's inhibiting you from being open and learning to work with this Mars energy in a much more positive way. So this is going to make us less prone to impulsive outbursts or anger or frustration, choosing instead to channel our emotions in much more constructive ways. Now, then it's going to take us to the 22nd of October. And on the 22nd, we don't see anything crazy happening with Mars, but this is when we see Mercury enter into the sign of Scorpio. So this is important because now we have Mars as the dispositor for Mercury. So we're going to see Mars and Mercury get closer and closer before they make a conjunction later throughout this transit. Now, this tells me that wherever Mars is taking action, it's in regards to Mercury-related things. So systems, investments, applications. I think of like Mercury, Mars, and Scorpio as like taxes, tax documents, tax reform. It can be about, information breaches, data drop, some kind of like exposure of something that might be coming up as well. So we want to just keep in mind that whatever aspects Mars is making, it really is connected to Mercury. And this is like messengers. This is people who might be like releasing private or hidden data or information. All right, so then on the 28th, we're going to have the lunar eclipse, which is going to be in the sign of Taurus. And while this has nothing really to do with Taurus because the eclipse is ruled by Venus, it is very strongly aspected in the skies at the time of this particular eclipse. We have Mars, the planet of war and conflict and passion and desire, moving in opposition to Jupiter. This is very big energy. An eclipse in Taurus is definitely going to bring some grand finale revolving around money, resources, the stock market, financial institutions, the banking kind of business. Not the easiest place to have Venus at the time of these eclipses. So it is kind of an indication that while there's potentially money to be made, it's being made in a way that's like negatively impacting health or jobs in some way, shape, or form. Now, we know that Jupiter makes things larger, makes things bigger, and Jupiter deals with travel, philosophy, culture, but Jupiter in Taurus, I think, is about the economic growth. It can also be about rules and regulations revolving around banking, and it's at that 11 degrees, which represents like a sudden change or kind of something blowing up or something kind of evolving. So we've got Mars, which is about passion, anger, frustration, in opposition to Jupiter. So people are going to be very easily heated, right? Heat is another aspect of Mars. Angered, reacting, investing, moving money, taking money out, putting money into something because this is moving through the financial signs. I think that this Mercury and Mars is like fighting words. It does make me feel like there is lots of passionate communication and speech going on, revolving around rights and regulations, revolving around taxes and banking. So I do think that we're going to see lots of people talking about that. I think that's going to be a huge theme because of this particular eclipse. And 11 degrees is kind of like an anything goes eclipse, to be honest with you. Even with Jupiter retrograde, I still feel like it's going to make some really big waves revolving around this impending debt issue here in the United States, but also around the world. I do feel like we're going to start to kind of realize like we're kind of in the process of experiencing a very critical moment when it comes to the world economy. And where Taurus deals with what we physically own and possess, Scorpio deals with what we owe. So, this is coming after a whole month of, people having to start paying their student loans again. I think we're definitely going to be feeling the crunch economically in regards to job loss as well. So then we're going to go to the 29th. And on the 29th, we are going to see Mars conjunct Mercury at 11 degrees. So still kind of baked into the eclipse, right? They were close, but they weren't exact at the time of the eclipse. But what you're going to notice is the day after the eclipse, it is still kicking. We're going to see the moon continue to go through its exaltation in Taurus. It's going to conjunct Jupiter, and it's going to oppose. So October 29th in the morning, this is a day to really watch the stock market. Something big is going to happen, something big in the world. I don't even know what day the 29th is. I guess I should know. So this is Sunday. So world events, the 28th, 29th, going into the 30th. Something very big is probably going to affect the markets, I would imagine, on the 30th. So you're going to want to watch like the pre-opening numbers to see what's kind of going on. But 11 degrees deals with like politicians. It deals with like politics, it's about things that happen very suddenly. I have thought for some time, just personally, that when we start to really see the cracks going on with the financial system, it'll be something that'll probably happen over the weekend that's inhibiting people from being able to move money around, take stuff out, invest stuff. So if this were me, I'm not a financial advisor, but looking at some of these aspects, because Mars is the ruler of the North Node, and Aries is what we fight for, like, you're going to want to have all your provisions before this particular transit hits at the end of the month. And whether that's, I want to, have gas in my car, I want to have some extra food in the pantry, I want to have, protection for my home, I want to have some extra cash. These are the things you want to do before this particular transit hits, okay? I've said this before. And you guys will see, it may be something that is electrically based too, because Uranus is involved. So it can be not having access to an ATM, things aren't working, platforms are shut down, something's going on in an exchange and you can't get money off. Like, that could very well be the case with this particular transit. What's interesting is, like I said, Mercury is the dispositor. Mars is the dispositor of Mercury, so they're conjunct, and that 11 degrees is kind of like wigging out. And then Mercury is also the dispositor for Venus, okay? And we've got Venus coming into a trine. So it's going to be about whether or not we have money, resources, food, Taurus-related things. I can only imagine what's going to go on around that date. So let's read the Sabian symbol for 12 degrees of Scorpio, because it's going to be at 11, so we're going to read 12. I haven't even looked at this myself, so we are reading this together. Okay, so we've got, this is page 255. Scorpio 12, an embassy ball. Oh, we've read this. Okay, so formal maneuvers. The symbol speaks to a social ritual at its highest and the opportunity it brings to each individual to recognize himself, whether or not his perceptions and hopes and expectations that first moved him to pledge or affiliate himself with a particular organization or cause has been realized or met. The image of an embassy ball is associated with politics and government. The dance alludes to the intricate steps and fancy footwork that must be learned in any effective Social maneuvering. Implicit in this symbol is the dramatization of values. Here, the political process of a group is exposed as either a means to encourage or develop personal excellence among all its members or tools to exploit the skills and resources of the weak and disenfranchised. The emphasis in the symbol is on revelation through theatrical exaggeration and the chance to see things for what they really are. At its highest, the symbol represents a natural poise for grace and facilitates group integrity and stability. Watch for arrogance and class consciousness and use of tactics to achieve the desired ends. The accent is on lavish show and formality. Activities center on special events that require you to look and perform your best. Your greatest advantage lies in following the lead of those in the know. Let the others speak and act first, then make your move. Guard against committing faux pas by failing to adequately inform yourself beforehand on the proper protocol or custom for some important social ritual or occasion. Stepping stones are formality, grandeur, social drama, politics, show, pomp, ceremony, splendor, pageantry, or maneuvering. I guess for me, this is really about the need for diplomacy and tact in handling intense or transformative situations. As Scorpio is associated with deep emotions and power dynamics, it can also suggest a situation where you need to navigate complex relationships or negotiations with finesse and discretion. It's a reminder that sometimes maintaining a sense of decorum and diplomacy can help conflicts to achieve your goals more efficiently. Although I am going to say that it's not going to be easy, because Mercury and Mars is like fighting words. And I do think that, there's going to be a lot of like people who are going after what they want with Mars and Scorpio. And I think Mercury and the Sun is the same thing. I think you're going to hear a lot more people saying, follow the money, figure out, where the money is, and where like this focus on wealth and power and control is very much connected to a lot of this like warmongering. You guys are going to see, especially in politics, like go and see what's going on with Congress and like what major congressmen and women are investing in, what they're buying, what they're trading, because likely you're going to realize that you're hearing them talk about, oh, we don't want war, we want peace, we want to be able to providing aid, but look at where their money is going, look at what they're buying and how much is potentially at stake in the matter. Now, then we're going to see on the 5th of November, this is where we have Mars coming into and in conjunct with Chiron. Okay, and Mars rules Chiron in the North Node. So what does this mean? In the mix of these transits, Ceres is there, and I haven't really touched on this yet, but Ceres can deal with grain. It can deal with loss and grief, especially Ceres in Scorpio can be about grief revolving around women and children, grief of loss, grief of also death, and the trauma that comes with the loss of something. Loss of home, right? Because Ceres can be associated with home and nurturing. Loss of food, resources, power, electricity. We're going to see some people really responding to like a lack of their, necessary things when it comes to life. But on this day, we're going to see the inconjunct between, the Mars and Chiron, and it's at a 14, so I feel like this is really indicating where there's some really significant changes or transformations that are happening either through war or through loss or grief. That's making us acutely aware of our wounds, especially wounding revolving around the mother wound or home or family related matters. And this is something you don't want to miss, because I think when we have Mars that starts building into an inconjunct both with Chiron as well as the North Node, it's really going to be showing us where there's something that is almost like excess heat, anger, frustration, violence, fear that's coming to the surface that needs to be expressed to better do what we need to do when it comes to our North Node Chiron work of healing ourselves and holding ourselves accountable. Then we're going to see on November 11th, this is when we're going to have Mars oppose Uranus in Taurus. Now, this is also a bit of like an explosive energy, right? Uranus deals with sudden changes, and it can be electrical. It can be ups and downs and swings with finances. It can also represent like global financial patterns because it's at 21 degrees. Law, legality revolving around banking. And we have Mars coming into an opposition with Uranus. So oppositions are relational. It does represent our relationship to something else. So you're going to want to look at what's going on in the area of Scorpio and where something is needing to transform in some way to better adapt. I thought for some time, and I've been saying this for the last year, that really what's going on is like a real move to like, get rid of cash. I think that this is going to be a bigger theme over the next several months. I think you're going to see some places that aren't going to be taking cash. I think you're going to also see some places that are also going to be talking about like alternative methods of money and exchange, because Uranus is futuristic and unusual. The last few years with, Uranus in Taurus and Jupiter in Taurus and the Saturn squares, we have definitely seen the rise and fall of some crypto platforms. But this might actually represent where some people see the value and they're jumping in on it, or some people are bailing. There's going to be extreme fluctuations one way or the other. I've heard a lot of people recently talking about how they're fearful of like potential future bans on Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, and I personally don't buy it. I think that there's something to be said about the fact that like major institutions are buying it and holding it. Also, I think there's something to be said about the fact that like, BlackRock, Vanguard, like other companies are essentially potentially, trying to create rhetoric out in the media, scaring people into either selling it or not buying it, but they themselves are buying into it. So that is enough for me to be like, okay, potentially this is like a backdoor in a future where there could be CBDCs where people have the opportunity to potentially buy it while, things are dropping, or people are afraid of buying it because they've been told that there may be some limitation. Once again, not a financial advisor, but I'm curious to see what's going to be going on at this time. And I'll just leave it at that, especially just knowing what I know about the Bitcoin chart. You guys are really going to see over like the next couple of years as Pluto goes into Aquarius and we see a retrograde that's going to be in Capricorn. I personally believe that it's going to be quite valuable in the future. But watch out for dangerous situations, explosions, unexpected shocks and surprises, especially when it comes to financial systems. Then we're going to see on the 13th, there is going to be a very potent new moon that is going to be taking place in the sign of Scorpio. And this is one to watch. It'll be the early hours on the 13th. We are going to have a new moon in Scorpio that'll be coming in at around 20 degrees with a conjunction of Mars. So essentially, Sun-Mars conjunctions do generally bring excess heat, passion, desire, action. Having the ruler in conjunction to the sun or moon does seem to kind of indicate that this is a lunar cycle that's being set up for 28 days. That's about initiating changes against all odds, oppositions to Uranus. Look back at what's happened in recent years when we've had solar eclipses in Scorpio that have been aspecting Uranus. Likely, those have also been patterns and periods where we've seen lots of fluctuation with money and resources, but also personal values as well. Quite frankly, I'm looking forward to this because I do think that even though this is a really intense new moon, Mars is positioned very nicely and it's giving us the opportunity to break free with anything that's not genuinely giving us freedom. And the trine to Neptune isn't all that bad either. Then on the 16th, this is the day that has caught my eye the most, I think, of the entire Mars and Scorpio transit. There is just so much stuff going on this day. So I have this circled on my calendar. Okay, so a number of things taking place, so try to stay with me. Let's start first with the Mars cazimi. We have Mars that pulls ahead of the sun by 1 degree. And so on one hand, this can indicate like this rebirth of Mars, and it's being reborn, at least in the sign that it rules. So we see the opportunity for the sun, which is about action and ego and desire, to meet with Mars, and it's giving us a very powerful psychic, I think, message or intuition or just all knowing of like what actions we need to take. But I think we're going to be feeling that from the new moon on, but this is when we see the cazimi happen. 2, we are also going to see that Mars is going to in conjunct the North Node. So remember what I said, how they don't see each other. So as the sun and Mars come together, it can indicate that there is a powerful something that's beginning, but it's kind of like hidden or misaligned with our North Node. 24 degrees does represent something that is hidden, secretive, something that dissolves. It's a Neptunian degree. So I have also been kind of doing my research on some like ancient astrology, and some astrologers seem to think that this can be an indication of a war that's breaking out and getting ready to emerge because the sun is in such close proximity to Mars. Now, the other way of looking at this is that this also can be a day where there's just excess heat, passions, accidents, but also I think of Scorpio and this being things that can be viral illnesses, sicknesses, infections, fevers, things revolving around stuff that can be affecting us on either a spiritual level because it's 24 degrees or things that are connected to like an attack on the DNA. I don't like saying that, but it's kind of the feeling that I'm getting with the sextile to Pluto and the trine to Neptune. I don't know. Obviously, I'm hoping that that's not the case. You know, in the wake of this last week and hearing about 23andMe and their data breach, all of their genetic information being sold on the black web is very concerning for me because I do feel like that gives some potential people out there the ability and the opportunity to literally tap into specific groups of people. So I'm really watching this to see, you know, is it about passion and transforming something? I hope. But I'm also a realist, and I know that Ceres is strongly connected to this, and it does deal with grief and loss. And the trines to Neptune can represent a releasing, a dissolving, and letting something go. My advice is really be on the up and up with, you know, purging, clearing, detoxifying, especially, you know, Scorpio can be about metals. It can be things that are affecting hormones, and it can be anything that is potentially toxic or poisonous. Now, the very same day, we see this, you know, building of the Sun, Mars, and Ceres conjunction. So where Mars represents action, energy, drive, you know, I think that the sun is kind of indicating some kind of movement involving leaders, involving men. There can be conflict amongst leaders, especially internationally with the trine to Neptune. And there being some kind of conflict, war, or attack that is being brought up that is really stimulating markets. I don't think a lot of the information that's being put out there about what's truly going on with the economy is all that accurate. I think a lot of the job numbers are skewed. I think a lot of the economic numbers regarding inflation are skewed. And I think that, quite frankly, the powers that be are probably trying to stir up another war as a means to be able to keep the stock market alive and running and almost give it a little bit more oomph just to get it through the new year. Anyway, that's just my hot take. We'll see. But, you know, we're going to be watching these two planets come together and trine Neptune, right? So on one hand, you know, the trine can be creative. It can basically blend the two energies and give us the opportunity to harness our energy and our motivation in a creative and imaginative way. We can feel very inspired with our actions and our action plans and our desires. It can lead to us being much more sensitive and empathetic because Neptune is known for sensitivity and empathy. And the trine aspect with Mars does kind of neutralize a little bit of the aggressive tendencies. It does give us the ability to be more compassionate, understanding, and able to connect with others on a deeper emotional level. This is great for those of you guys who are in touch with your artistic talents, because Mars and Neptune in a trine does indicate a strong affinity for music pursuits. It may manifest as skill areas such as music, dance, painting, writing, and creative endeavors. I personally think that you're going to be hearing some really significant music that's going to be coming out that is very strong anti-war protest art, music, in forms of self-expression. I think that that's going to be a very big theme. This is also an amazing time for spiritual pursuits because Neptune is associated with spirituality and all things that are mystical. So when you see this trine set up, there's going to be more of an inclination towards spiritual exploration, meditation, deep interest in metaphysics. Particularly, I could see this being in relation to hypnosis and past life regression, shamanic healing, shamanic drums, and anything revolving around kundalini or sexual healing as well. This will also give us lots of dreamy ambition because Mars is connected to action and Neptune's influence adds that kind of dreamy quality. As we experience this trine, it is possible for us to dream big and really focus on pursuing our goals with a sense of realism and inspiration. However, with Neptune, we always have to be mindful that it is possible that there could be deception. So on the flip side, Neptune's influence can also bring a tendency towards deception. We want to watch for this aspect and stay grounded and watch for being too overly idealistic or misled. In particular, I have a concern about this being about certain, groups being influenced to believe that we do need to get more so involved in war, that we do need to be expending money for war, or that we do need to be, kind of giving away freedom, like not taking action in some way, shape, or form, because Mars and the Sun wants to move directly towards something, but it can also be fearful. So I could see this being like, people who are like, okay, we're not gonna be organizing, or we're not meeting, or we're not defending ourselves because of Neptune being some kind of like shadowy type situation. Now, the Cazimi for me, I think is really significant because like I said, Mars is being reborn in the heart of the sun, and it's going to be happening in its ruling sign. Now, when we look at this also, the other planet that's associated with both Mars and the sun is Pluto, because Pluto is the modern day ruler of Scorpio. They're coming into a sextile with one another, and Pluto is now direct in Capricorn. So now the shadow stuff is out in the open. Now the power struggles and everything that's been going on behind the scenes is now finally coming into fruition. So some may suggest that whatever planning or plotting has been going on in the world, especially with top-down, government structures, is now coming into reality. I don't know. I'm looking at this and I'm like, in theory, the Cazimi is supposed to be positive. It's about, a planet being in the heart of the sun and relaying some kind of message, potentially, to a leader. This taking place at 24 degrees, I do think has the potential for it being like a secret attack or a secret war or, something that is being like unleashed. This is going to bring lots of strength and intensity to this particular transit because it's considered a significant boost of energy. So you're going to see more assertiveness, more intensity. There is much more focus on courage, ambition, aggression. Is definitely very pronounced. Like, don't get it twisted. Mars in Scorpio and Sun in Scorpio is ruthless. It's brutal, especially when they're this close together and in an opposition to Uranus. So you're going to see a lot of short fuses, a lot of people that are getting very defensive, and a lot of people that are going to be a little bit more hostile and dangerous than usual. This will also create increased drive. So as we see this conjunction come together, it's really highlighting where a certain area of your chart is really focusing on taking action. And I think in this case, it can be about survival, preparation, foresight, intuition. And so it does pay to be prepared with this transit. I do think that it's giving us the opportunity to take action and pursue something in a very fearless manner. I think the solar influence of the sun being there is also about our identity and our ego. And when the Cazimi happens, it indicates that our drives and our desires are closely aligned with our sense of self and purpose. So this alignment can help individuals act decisively and align with the true self. So it's interesting that this conjunction is going to happen in Scorpio, and it's in conjuncting the North Node. Does this mean that something has to die off in order for something new to be reborn? Is it the end of one particular leadership, which might bring about new leadership in the spring? Maybe, it is possible. Watch for potential challenges though, because the Cazimi is a surge of energy and determination. It's only going to last for about a day, so it's quick moving, but it does bring impulsiveness. And it is essential for individuals as we go through this transit to be mindful of the tendencies and channel these energies constructively. So what is Scorpio? Scorpio is about intense psychic probing, it's research, it's transformative, it's shedding of the skin, the willingness to shine a light in the dark with the sun and Mars. So you really want to take a look at Scorpio and ask yourself, like, what am I afraid of acknowledging here? What am I afraid of ending? What do I need to change? So that way I can kind of clear some of this stuff out now to better kind of receive what I'm going to get in the spring of 2024. Like I said, it's a very short period. It's only going to last for a couple hours to about most of the day, and then it's going to start to pass. Now, what's interesting is just a couple days later, then we see the exact conjunction between Ceres, Mars, and the Sun, and this is going to be on the 20th. All of these planets will be conjunct at 27 degrees. Now, Ceres is she's an asteroid goddess. She's not necessarily a planet, but nevertheless, I think that this is something worthy of mentioning because I do feel like there is something coming up revolving around Ceres-related themes. She is associated with nurturing, maternal instincts, the way we care for ourselves and others, but also it's linked to issues revolving around food, sustenance, environment. So it's very likely that we are going to be seeing some spotlight on some of these themes. I'm thinking like grains, in particular, and like where, war is creating some kind of shortage with grain or some kind of natural resources. This could be oil or gasoline because it's going to be trining Neptune. But also this can be like where people are like literally being cut off from food or from resources that may potentially need. So when we connect all of these three things together, the Sun, Mars, and Ceres in the sign of Scorpio, you're going to see a very intense drive. This is going to be an alignment, basically, that's taking place that is about, the passion for nature, a passionate nature. And you're going to be feeling much more motivated and driven to pursue your goals and your desires with a single-minded focus. More self-assertion will be going on, and you'll be feeling very intense needs to nurture something or someone. Because Ceres is in the mix, it's a deep need to nurture and care for others, especially in an intense, passionate way. We might find that we're being fiercely protective of our loved ones. Now, Scorpio deals with depth. So this alignment is about a strong emotional nature. It might mean that we're experiencing emotions in a very deep way, and we need to learn how to manage and channel these emotions in a much more constructive manner. And once again, it's about learning to really go through this, change, focus on growth. And it can mean that some of us go in a different direction when it comes to our home, how we're eating, our nurturing patterns, or even our career. Now, when that conjunction is finished, we're going to see Mars continue to move. You'll see the conjunction for several days with Ceres. And then Mars is going to hit that critical 29 degrees, and that's going to be on the 22nd. So this is when we're really feeling the power of okay, Mars is in its final moments, and this will be the 22nd through the 24th. Mars will have been in a sextile to Pluto, so, this is a closing sextile. It does indicate that the actions that we've been taking to kind of clear something out or, handle something or face something is helping us transmute some of these issues. And then on the 24th, we're going to see the Mars ingress into the sign of Sagittarius. And here, it's a completely different ball game. Mars makes its ingress squaring Saturn, so that is challenging for sure. Sun and Mars will square Saturn. And we are also going to see Mars eventually start coming into some more harmonious aspects with the North Node. So that's really the long and short of like the transit. Like I said in the beginning, the trines to Saturn is more dedicated strategic planning. In the end, the trines to Neptune is really recognizing where sometimes it's not just about the action we're taking. It's about being more, empathetic. It's about being more sensitive, being more tapped in, being more emotional, and that being a form of strength as well. It does not have to be physical. So with that being said, I'm going to take you guys now to the 12 rising signs. I'm going to give you a little bit of advice on how to handle this, where Mars is going through in your chart, and how to be more mindful of making the changes in the Scorpio area so you can be better and more so ready to embrace the changes where the North Node is in Aries. As always, I'm a Western astrologer, so I focus on Western astrology. I'm going to be using the whole rising sign method. You can use that because it's going to go through 0 to 29 degrees of Scorpio, or you can look at where 0 degrees of Scorpio is in your Placidus chart, and you can take a look at that particular transit. You can also look at your progress chart if that's something that you want to take a look at. All right, so let's change this now. All right, so this is going to be for my Aries and Aries rising. Let's take a look. There we go. And I'll pull some tarot for you guys too. How to navigate this, because this is finally we can see Mars in a position where we can get some work done. And obviously Aries, this is so important for you because you're ruled by Mars. So you probably resonate with a lot of like the in conjunct stuff that I was talking about. So for you Aries, Mars is in your 8th house. It rules your 8th house. It also rules your 1st house. So wherever Mars goes is where you go. And to me, it looks like you are going into a place where you're willing to kind of deal with, handle, go deeper, expose, heal, or work through something. As Mars goes through your 8th house, it can intensify your desires and motivation, especially in areas relating to shared resources, transformation, or intimacy. You're unafraid to delve deeper into the unknown, especially taboo aspects revolving around life. So the thing that I would say here is that, at least you have the Sun and Mercury moving through here. So you're more open to communicating and talking about some of these changes. Death, sex, taxes, joint resources, inheritance, that all goes through the 8th house. And Mars also rules your 1st. So to me, it looks like you're going through a period of like purging, clearing, and detoxifying something. It's important that you actually do this work now, so that way you're feeling healthier, happier, and more capable of being independent when we get to the spring of 2024. These transits make me feel like it could be really important for you to consider really maybe doing some therapy work, or doing some shadow work. This can also mean that you're moving through something involving your finances or your resources with another person. Mercury's in the mix as well, and that has connections to your habits as well as your communication. So something about like your emotional, your psychological, or your financial health is kind of being worked on throughout this particular transit. Especially watch for when Mars comes into in conjuncts with Chiron and also the North Node. Obviously, touch wood, but this is sometimes where I see people that are like, oh, I have to get a surgery, or I have to have something removed, or, I have to go and have something looked at, or they need to be taking a sample of something. That's not unusual when you see Mercury and Mars meeting in your 8th house. Otherwise, it's going to be getting word about something relating to work and habits changing. The card that I got for you is Temperance. So I think it's definitely about timing. It's about healing. And it might just be that you're kind of saying to yourself, like, now is the time to like let this thing go. And that you're feeling that, that you've been kind of, taking your time getting to this point, and like now you're really ready to release something. Could be a bad habit. It could be something that you're eating. It could be something revolving around your work and your health routine. But Temperance is basically saying everything is kind of lining it up, making it possible for you to do this healing work now. Good luck. We've got Taurus and Taurus rising. You are going to be experiencing Mars ingress into Scorpio. It's moving into your opposite sign, Taurus. So you have been forewarned. This does bring a lot of action in regards to relationships because Mars does rule Scorpio. So if you're in a business relationship, if you're in a committed relationship, if you're married, if you have a client-based business, the 7th house can also be your marketplace, things that you sell, resources that you get from your services. Mars also has connections to Aries in your 12th house. So as Mars goes through your 7th, in relationships, there's just much more assertiveness. There is more independence going on in relationships. You might find that if you're single, you're attracting partners who are very dynamic and competitive. Conflicts can arise and power struggles can arise. So be mindful of that if your relationships aren't managed. And marriage and partnerships can be central themes because that's what the 7th house is. However, something about some kind of conflict may arise in a relationship or in a partnership that is something that's kind of been, beneath the surface because Mars is also connected to your 12th house of your subconscious. So it is possible that there is some kind of conflict coming out in relationships because it's something that you haven't talked about or something you haven't said, and now suddenly it's coming out. And, you are going to notice that, Mars is coming into oppositions with both Jupiter as well as Uranus in your sign. So there can be lots of back and forth with a relationship about, whether or not you're open to change and whether or not you're reacting very abruptly. And if you're not doing so well with talking to them about financial matters, or if you're not too keen on, feeling like partners are bossing you around or telling you what to do, that can definitely be coming out. And it can be somebody confronting where you have been kind of secretive or, not being completely forthcoming about where you're going or what you're doing. That sounds weird, but that is the 12th house. You can have some partners that can be a little suspicious. The card that I get for you is the Two of Cups. Well, thank God. So good news for single Taurus and Taurus risings. I mean, that is the relationship card. So it can say, hey, you have been afraid of relationships or afraid of partnering or committing. And maybe it's kind of people saying to you, are you ready for a relationship? It doesn't seem like you're ready. And it may prompt you saying like, oh man, I need to meditate more. I need to reflect more, or, I'm going to do some work on, connecting with my higher self and healing something, or going to a retreat, 12th house, or going to therapy, to kind of start working through some of this stuff. If there's some resistance to partnering with other people. If you're in a relationship, to me, it looks like partners, or coaches, or spouses can really be pushing you and being like, come on, let's go. You can do this, like get it together. And I know that you're going to be a little touchy and a little sensitive with some of these oppositions. So just be mindful that you want to work with the trines to Saturn and Neptune in the 11th house. And you want to be talking to them about making goals a reality together and trying to focus on being a team. Right, that's what you want to focus on so that you're not having as much static. But Two of Cups is good for relationships. Good luck. We've got Gemini and Gemini rising. You're going to be experiencing Mars's ingress into Scorpio in your natal 6th house. Well, Gemini, for you, this is really emphasizing the fact that you're working hard. You're going to have a strong focus on health and routines. It's about not being afraid to tackle tasks and challenges head on. This can make you an effective problem solver at work. This can also just make you like gangbusters with cleaning and organizing. You might feel very dedicated to your work routine or your fitness routine, or really adamant about just changing or transforming your habits. Obviously, Scorpio is a sign that also in conjuncts or quincunxes you as well. So it's not just Aries. This might feel like there's just this never-ending list of things that you have to do. Obviously, that Mercury-Mars conjunction is very significant for you because you are Mercury. So it might mean that there's a tiff with somebody in the office space, or, you're dealing with a dog that's a little snappy, or a pet that's a little snappy. It can also mean that, maybe you're going through some kind of health related issue and you're telling your friends, hey, this is, I need some help. But it can also be an indication that you're just kind of getting things in order in regards to work and your routine, and just really focusing on being productive. Mars has connections also to your 11th house, where the North Node is. And so it's interesting, like my experience with the 6th house to the 11th is like where you have problems or setbacks or challenges, and learning how to reach out to people and ask for help. If you're having issues with a coworker, do you have a group meeting and do you sit down with other people so you can kind of work through it and work as a team, right? That's the in conjunct. Do you decide that you're finally going to tackle some of your bad habits, and that means that you're not kind of partying as much, or are you partying too much, and is that bringing up some health related or some habit related issues in the 6th? But if you're sick, or you're struggling, or there's some kind of setbacks or some kind of delays, it might mean that there can be some support that can come from friends or another group. I also get the impression that this can just be about cleaning, organizing, and getting something prepared, primarily because you may be entertaining, right? The 11th house can be about parties and gatherings and get-togethers. So let's see what the cards say for you. Mars does very well in the 6th house, I should add. So I'm not as concerned about this transit for you. I feel like productivity in the 6th house is only going to be aiding all of the kind of building that you're doing professionally in the 10th. So for all we know, it could be about how you're working with some coworkers. For you, I get the King of Wands, which I like because this is a feisty kind of warm energy. It might be about working up, a sweat. It can also be about finding that, you need to come up with a schedule for your creative endeavors. There may be some support that comes from an Aries, a Sag, or a Leo throughout this process. But maybe this is about making time for the things that you love, the things that you want to participate in, the things that you want to make happen, right? And taking action and allowing that to really kind of help you take center stage, especially when it comes to your professional life, because the King of Wands can be about what you create and what you put out there. Good luck. All right, we've got Cancer and Cancer rising. You're going to be experiencing Mars going through the sign of Scorpio in your natal 5th house. Well, Cancer, at least it's happening in a part of the sky that is a fellow sister sign. So you're going to be kind of in tune with these energies pretty nicely. You're also going to be picking up on some trines from planets in Pisces. So Cancer, Sun, Moon, and Risings will be having some grand water trines, which can be very psychic, very emotional, very sensitive. And Mars in the 5th house, that's so fun with the sun being there. I think for you, this is about creativity and romance being a major theme, pursuing your passions with enthusiasm, being competitive in artistic or recreational pursuits. Romantic relationships might be marked by intensity and desire for fun, but also really strong for gambling, taking chances, having a good time, hobbies that involve, some kind of daring, behavior. You might be somebody who's like, well, I'm going to go, like shooting for recreation, right? Mars can be about weapons and self-defense. And Mercury also requires some kind of meditative kind of quality and focus. It can also mean that, you're wanting to bring your ideas and your visions to life, and you're, creating in some way. But very strong for lots of action revolving around dating, romance, relationships, and children. And I think you're really going to like when it starts coming into trines with Saturn, because relationships can start at a distance. There can be long distance relationships or planning a holiday with someone. And then the trines to Neptune also talk about really feeling like you're in tune with something that makes you feel fulfilled. Let's take a look. Let's see what the cards say for you. The card that I get is the 4 of Coins. I like this. I think that for you, this is about asking yourself, can I let go? Can I trust? Can I fall in love again? Can I be vulnerable? Can I play? It's about being open to that, not holding on too tight. I think it's going to be interesting to see these planets sextile Pluto in your 7th. It can represent where, you know, creativity and fun and passion can lead to stronger connections that can lead to really powerful relationships and commitments to other people. There can be a sense of holding back, though. 4 of Coins is holding back or holding on to something. And, you know, I think about all the eclipse energy in your 11th house, and you're going to have friends and other people who are going to be saying, come play, you know, come to this party, come to this gathering with us, let's have a good time. And I would say open up a little bit, let loose, like let love in, and that can really help make the most of this transit. Good luck. We've got Leo and Leo rising. You will be experiencing Mars going through the sign of Scorpio in your natal 4th house. All right, well, my Leos, you know how it goes. Scorpio season is always a little prickly for you. You've got planets moving through your 4th house of home and family. It is naturally squaring your ascendant and opposing all of this energy in Taurus, in your career zone. So Mars has connections to your 4th house natally, as well as Aries in the 9th house. When you have Mars go through your 4th house, there is a strong drive to protect and secure your home and family. Mars here can bring a degree of restlessness with the domestic sphere, possibly prompting frequent changes of residence, renovations, or conflicts with family or roommates. Now, personally, I feel like this can also mean that family from further away is coming to visit. There can be a lot of action with that. Some of you guys might be thinking about moving and going, you know, to a place that's further away. Maybe you're boxing things up, clearing your house out, getting stuff out. So the action is revolving around transforming your home, especially if you're thinking about a long distance relocation or move. The 9th house connection to Mars can also be in-laws. So this can be about in-laws being on or around, I guess I should say, the home and the effects that it has. In particular, your relationship with a man in the family. So it can be a male child, a male partner. It can be about a father figure as well. And I don't know. I mean, I think, you know, with the Mars transits, it's best to have something to do. So have something to work on. That's the best advice I can give you. Throughout this transit, you're going to feel kind of pulled in 2 different directions between the work that you need to get at home or how you're feeling versus what you have to be doing out in the world, like professionally. And it's going to kind of pull in both directions. Watch for when Mars opposes Jupiter and Uranus, because it can represent, you know, some challenge that you have with a child, or, you know, kind of having to juggle things with a partner and needing to communicate very well with either a partnership or a family member about your responsibilities at work versus what you can actually get done at home. Now, I think what needs to change and transform quite literally within the home base is happening, so that way you can do more of this 9th house stuff next year. So that's, you know, to travel, to go back to school, to learn, to start writing a book, to, you know, change something about, you know, what you believe in. So there can be a lot of clearing out old family kind of like themes and old belief systems or old ways of living to make room for ultimately what's going to be emerging in the spring. Let's take a look. Let's see. The card that I get for you is the Knight of Coins. So I like that. I feel like for you, this is about taking, you know, slow and steady, calculated steps forward when it comes to handling home matters. This can also be talking about like what you're physically investing in when it comes to your home, what you're physically buying, building. You know, Mars can be about obtaining something, being able to conquer something. So are you, you know, investing in your home? Are you looking at places in another city? Is there a sense of you like focusing on investing more into like flipping or transforming a home? Something like that can be going on now. Equally, you know, a Taurus, a Capricorn, or a Virgo can kind of come through that can be very much involved in this process in helping you kind of make changes on the home front. And I think this is about really like taking stock in what you have and like knowing what you have. So if you are sorting and sifting or having garage sales or selling things or downsizing, this is about being very particular and knowing what you have and the value of your things before you just get rid of them, right? Mars can be about cleaning things out. Good luck, Leo. We've got Virgo and Virgo rising. You're going to be experiencing Mars's ingress into the sign of Scorpio in your natal 3rd house. Well, for you, my Virgos, this is about your communication style becoming a little bit more direct and assertive. This is about being a quick thinker and communicator. But you may also notice that you're going to be more prone to arguments or impulsive decision making if you don't channel this energy constructively. Watch for issues with siblings. There can be some challenges, rivalry, or a source of motivation. Well, I love seeing Mars in your 3rd house with Mercury because it's giving you stronger powers revolving around Mercury, thinking, communicating, traveling, you know, moving. These things can be coming up. In particular, I feel like you want to watch for like subconscious things that you're saying, you know, just kind of like blurting things out. Like that can definitely happen with the Sun's conjunction. But what does it mean here in your 3rd house? Well, Mars has connections to your 8th. And the goal by the time we get to next year is some kind of change, transformation of joint resources, having support from other people. This can also be about, you know, having, some kind of connection to occult-related matters or tax-related matters. It's hard to say. I mean, Aries is the self and the 8th house is transformation. So is it possible that you're starting some kind of like new program revolving around, you know, journaling or self-reflection or something in regards to how you communicate with other people? Are you beginning therapy? Is there conflict with other people, which is prompting you maybe doing that in the new year? Maybe. I love the 3rd house for movement. Like if you want to buy a car, if you want to move, if you want to start a new blog, if you want to start a new passion project that could potentially like make you some extra money, I like this. But I also think about the trines that you're going to be having to your 7th, and I could see some Virgos moving in with other people, traveling with other people, learning a lot about relationships and how to connect and communicate with people better. And that's really helping you embrace change in some way, shape, or form as we're getting into next year. Now, you especially want to pay attention to the dates that I gave you when Mercury and Mars are in conjunction, because it means that there could be, touch wood, more conflicts with other people, some kind of squabble, an argument. It could also indicate that that's when you have a problem with a neighbor or, you know, an issue with a vehicle. Not the time to be speeding, okay? Especially as you start to see oppositions to Uranus. You could find that, you know, you're late to work, you're speeding because you're behind schedule, and then boom, you get a pretty gnarly speeding ticket and potentially having some legal issues revolving around said incident with a vehicle. So when it comes to documents, vehicles, you know, traveling, things that you have to sign, take your time, don't rush through things. All right, let's see what these cards say for you, my Virgos. The card that I got for you is the Fool. I like this because I feel like it's about like starting over, you know, like trying something new that you've never done before. Maybe it's like, hey, you know, like I would never consider living in that city, but like I'm going to go and try it for a year. Or it might mean that you're kind of turning over a new leaf and trying to communicate differently or see things differently. Or, you know, maybe just exploring more, having more freedom when it comes to getting out and about and doing things. Because the 3rd house can definitely prompt like road trips and like overnight things that you can do by car. And it also is connected to Uranus. So it's interesting that it can also indicate that maybe you weren't anticipating moving or you weren't anticipating traveling, but opportunities come up and you're like, yeah, sure, why not? You know, that could be an adventure. Very interesting for you, Virgo. Good luck. All right, so we have Libra and Libra rising. You will be experiencing Mars transiting Scorpio in your natal second house. All right, so for you, my Libras, you are going to be having Mars go through your second house. It's going to make you more assertive in matters of money and possessions. You have a strong drive to earn and manage your resources with this transit, and financial independence seems to be a huge focus for you. Well, it's interesting because obviously Mars has connections to your second house, but it also has connections to your seventh. So what's happening right now is it's almost like there's seeds that are being planted revolving around things that you're investing your money in, or, you know, opportunities professionally that might be arising, new ways to be able to drum up business that's opening up your relationships, your marketplace, or your relationship to other people. The second house Mars transit, it's like you got to be careful with spending money because it can burn a hole in your pocket. So be mindful of how much money is going out. Certainly there can be some conflict or some challenges with other people because of the connection to the seventh house when it comes to spending and also possessions. But I do think that for the most part, the trines to the sixth house is where you're like, okay, I'm making money so I can justify, you know, like spending more on a gym membership, or justify hiring staff or getting an assistant, expanding your business in some way if you're somebody who is self-employed. The thing that you want to watch out for is when Mercury and Mars come into conjunction, because Mercury represents something that you don't see coming and Mars represents a partnership, and it can mean that there is some unexpected expense that can cause a little bit of strife in a relationship. It can be situations like buying something and then having issues refunding it or returning it, or some kind of a service that you're supposed to be giving to another person and then them demanding, hey, you know, I want a refund. There can definitely be a little bit of back and forth expense related things going on. But the second house is your money house. So with the Sun, Mercury, Mars being there, you're really adamant about being able to increase the likelihood of being able to have the resources necessary to maintain independence. So it's a very strong period of time for you in regards to resources. In the spring, when you get to Aries season, you're going to find that this is also like increasing clients or business or opportunity for relationships. So you might find yourself investing in you, investing in your style, investing in your business. And it's giving you the opportunity to bring in a lot more clients or potential relationship opportunities next year. The card that I get for you is the Hanged Man, which is a funny card. Because I think of the trines to Pisces. I think of the Saturn trine where it's like you're going like, okay, do I want to make a purchase or an expense for my home or for my office? And then I see the trine to Neptune where it's like, is it actually going to be worth it? So, you know, I would say take a pause and reflect before you decide to make any big budget purchases. I know some of you guys may, because you're going to have an eclipse in your 8th house at the end of the month of October. But I would definitely think it through and really ask yourself, is it something that's really going to increase your productivity? Is it actually worth the expense that you're going to be spending? And also, the Hangman is saying, when in doubt, don't. Think about it, hang back, wait. There's no need to rush into making an investment or making a purchase. Keep in mind, all these planets are going to oppose Uranus, so you're going to be feeling the pressure to suddenly jump in and buy or invest in something, and it could go one way or the other. Big risk, but potential big reward. Good luck, Libra. We've got Scorpio and Scorpio rising. Obviously, this is important for you, my Scorpios, because you guys are ruled by Mars. And Mars is going into your sign. So first of all, Mars does well in Scorpio. Mars does well in the first house. So this is a very strong transit for you. This placement indicates a very strong, assertive, and dynamic month ahead for you. You're going to be feeling very motivated, competitive, eager to take the lead in any situation. Physical vitality, presence is very noticeable. So, I mean, the Sun, Mars, and Mercury in your first house is like, watch out. There's a lot of, get out of my way. I can do it. I can do it myself. I can do anything. It's a very kind of like entrepreneurial, very active, very combative configuration. So be mindful of that. This has signatures written all over it. That's a very Aries energy. And so when I think about, Scorpio in the first house with all that Scorpio energy, it's a little combative. It's a little defensive. And you're talking to somebody who has Sun, Mercury, Mars, and Scorpio, okay? So it's no shade on you guys. But in the first house, it's a totally different vibe than the second house. It is more gearing up for battle. That's really what this is. It's armor. It's having a weapon. It's ready to fight, right? Physically and verbally, Mercury and Mars. And all of this energy is close to the Sun, which is about being in control, being assertive, being the boss, and being very self-focused. So it's great if you're trying to get in shape. It's great if you're setting new intentions for your body, for your goals, if you're trying to focus on health and organization and productivity. Great. It's wonderful for that. So you're very goal-oriented. Here's the problem. It can be to a fault. And what you want to watch for is when Mars starts coming into an opposition with Jupiter and Uranus. When Mars starts opposing Jupiter, your assertiveness and your eagerness and your focus and direction may not be met with receptivity from other people, right? Jupiter in the 7th might mean that somebody's trying to guide you or give you advice or, kind of say, hey, like, why are you so mad? Or, why are you so feisty? What's going on? Jupiter in Taurus wants to be able to have peace, and it wants to be able to kind of teach or guide you. And you may not be so receptive of that. So not the best days for therapy or for a reading. And then when Mars opposes Uranus, which is the ruler of the 4th house, this is prime with conflict and issues either with family or with a partner over kind of like a home or family dynamic. Recently, in this last week, you have seen Mars come into a square with Pluto. So there's already been some tension in the air subconsciously in regards to communication with relationships or siblings. So now you're going to start to kind of see it visible because all these planets on the ascendant are rising. So you're starting to see this like warrior kind of emerge. Not going to be too keen on people telling you what to do. On the other hand, opposites can attract. So oppositions can mean that you're very passionately going after what you want. And you're seeing how other people respond to that. So you might feel that you'll walk right up to somebody and like ask them out to dinner or get their phone number. You might be more adamant about pursuing professional partnerships and relationships and clients as well. What you want to work with are going to be the sextiles to Pluto because it's going to help teach you that words have power. It's going to be much more about being persuasive. And the trines also to Saturn as well as Neptune. So Saturn can be about committing to your goals in regards to creative expression, romance, and children. Neptune can be about making your dreams a reality. So this is going to make for some very passionate Scorpios. And you guys know that it's usually like fighting or fornicating. These are the two things that Scorpio and Scorpio risings like to do. So it might mean that a little bit of friction and competitiveness can actually make relationships very, very passionate. Like that can definitely happen here as well. Go back and look at what was going on in 2021. I think that was the last time that we had Mars and Scorpio and we had some of these oppositions in the fall. Sometimes it was enough to be able to bring you and another person together. Sometimes it can be magnetic. But the key here is to remain open and don't be so highly self-focused and high-strung that you're not always seeing other people, because that can definitely come up here. All right, so let's see what the cards say for you, Scorpio. The card that I got for you is the Ace of Coins. going after what you want, getting what you want. Great for money, resources. I think about maybe the oppositions to Jupiter is money-making opportunities. And it could be being like, hey, here's the invoice, you know, pay me. But it could also be, how can we work together? How can we put our resources together? How can we generate more? How can we create wealth? How can we create more opportunities to have more together, right? Generally, the Ace of Coins is an indication that there is new financial opportunities on the horizon, planting new seeds when it comes to career, health, and prosperity, and that this is the beginning process of getting ready to do that. So good luck, my Scorpios. Let me know how it goes. I'll be in that with you. All right, so we've got Sagittarius and Sagittarius rising. You'll be experiencing Mars's transit into the sign of Scorpio in your 12th house. Well, here, Mars can be somewhat hidden or repressed. So you may not always show or express your desires with this transit. You might be dealing with anger or frustration or passions behind the scenes. There can definitely be a stronger drive that is not readily apparent to others, and you may need to confront subconscious issues. Okay, that's the theme in the 12th house. This is the time of the year where all the planets go through the 12th house to your sun or your ascendant, and it feels like the cosmic clearing, and Sagittarius are always like, what the hell is going on? Scorpio is so powerful, and it does represent the need to totally change or transform something. So subconsciously, it might feel like it's the end of the world or something is dying off, but it's because something is getting ready to be reborn. Now, you got to be kind of careful here because you have oppositions going on between the 12th house and the 6th house, which deal with, you know, spiritual health, behind the scenes, subconscious, sleep patterns, and then also the 6th house, which is health, habits, routines, diet, and, you know, your physical kind of day-to-day work life. So there can be health stuff that can come up here, especially with the eclipse at the end of October. Now, Mars is connected also to Aries in your 5th house. So this is about creativity, passion, romance, having fun, things revolving around you know, self-expression, children, dating, taking chances. Well, the 12th house is where all of our bad habits come out. So on one hand, there could be overdoing it, right? Over partying, self-sabotaging, self-undoing. So we might notice that we are partying a little too much, staying up a little too late, drinking a little too much, having a good time. And with the sun, which does represent travel, and Mercury, which represents like partnerships, I feel like, you know, if you're in another country, if you're traveling or you're out of town throughout these transits, it can be a wonderful time where you can just really kind of get lost in another place and have, you know, some great atmosphere and find it really romantic and kind of hide away with your significant other. But on the flip side, I feel like this can definitely be about like bad habits kind of coming up and things that need to be addressed, especially if there's stuff that's bothering you that you're not talking about. Aries can be your children, it can be a younger person, it can be your inner child, it can also be a romantic partner. And I wonder with like Mercury and Mars coming into conjunction, if there is like some conversation or some pillow talk that you have with a significant other about these topics, about children, about kids, about commitment. There could also be lots of breakthroughs that you can have in dreams, subconsciously relating to your inner child and things that you need to heal. When Mars goes through the 12th house, sometimes people crave like smoking or smoke or inhaling something. Aromatherapy can be helpful for that. Hot baths, you know, incense, drums, things that are still going to be Mars related things that can help. But there can also be unforeseen challenges in terms of communications with partners. So, you know, watch for that. In the spring, when you start to see some of this stuff emerge, it's making room for happiness, creativity, joy, new life, new love, pregnancy, you know, children, things like that. So it seems like there is something subconsciously that needs to emerge so you can kind of combat some of these fears and clear some of this stuff out, potentially making it possible for you to have some of these new beginnings that quite honestly are going to be really wonderful for you, Sag. I do think that hidden talents can emerge here as well. So I could definitely see some Sagittarius suns and risings that suddenly take up like drumming or percussion or, you know, some kind of spiritual work, which could really manifest as something that they're doing regularly that they really love come spring of 2024. All right, let's see what the cards say for you. The card that I get is the Death card. I was waiting for it. It's back there. It has been back there. You guys get all the spooky cards this week. I mean, you know, death for me is Pluto aspects, sometimes 12th house aspects, Scorpio or Mars, and you have all of these things. This is all happening for you throughout this particular period. What is death? It means that we must release or let go of something in order to let something else new come in. So whether this is some kind of subconscious fear or some bad habit or, you know, some frustration, like there's a need to really get out with it, deal with it, transmute it, release it, let it go. So that way something new can emerge. Yes, some of you guys are going to have issues with relationships because of Mercury and Mars. Yes, you guys are also going to start to kind of see where some of your bad habits and self-sabotaging can come up. But if you deal with it now, you're on the path to having much more connection to self and happiness and fun down the road. You got to pull the trigger. You got to be willing to make that change. Good luck, Sag. All right, so we've got Capricorn and Capricorn rising. This is going to be Mars going into the sign of Scorpio for you in your natal 11th house. For you, Capricorn, Mars moving through the 11th house creates a very dynamic and assertive kind of group dynamic. So more action socially, hanging out with friends, working out with friends, doing things with them. It may also represent organizations and social networks that you're becoming more active with. And you may take a leadership role within these circles. So friends and group activities are very energizing. Well, I like this for you. I think that your social life can just be like lit. There can be like lots of gatherings and get-togethers and having to kind of connect with people. I do think that what's most helpful is that you are going to be seeing eventually Mars coming into a sextile with Pluto in your sign. So it's almost like some friends are motivators. They're pushing you to embrace change, to make a change with how you view yourself, your appearance, something about maybe where you're living or your personal power. Now, Mars also has connections to Aries, which is the ruler of your 4th house. Home, family, your roots, an area that's very important because you're experiencing eclipses here. And these eclipses are squaring your sign. So you're going to see over the next year and a half, lots of changes with your home, where you're living, how you feel with your own family, or perhaps with one of your parents. So as Mars is coming through Scorpio and it's sextiling your sign, you have lots of support from friends when it comes to making changes emotionally, breaking with the past, or something in regards to your home or living dynamic. It is possible that they may be encouraging you to move, relocate, move in with them, get a new place, buy a house. You may also be kind of joining up with a friend who can help you with that process. They might say, hey, I'll help you move, or I'll help you qualify for a home loan, or I'll come in and help you decorate. Things like that to kind of give you the initiative or the push necessary to make this change within your home base. I do think the challenge is that you may not see some of this stuff coming. So remember, we want to work with the sextiles or we want to work with the trines. And maybe it's just a matter of like traveling and getting outside of your usual routine and like seeing people in other places, or maybe talking to people about other places. If you've been contemplating or considering a move, it's not flat out picking up and going somewhere, but you might be traveling with a friend or talking to people and kind of getting some feedback about this. Now, the other way to look at this is as Mercury and the Sun and Mars are coming together, there can be lots of support that can be coming from your friendship connections in regards to like work. If you're looking to get a new job, or if you're looking to connect with people who can kind of help you, this can also be another time where networking opportunities are very ripe and you have the opportunity to connect and communicate with people who could potentially help kind of further your goals when it comes to your professional life. Joining a group, starting a group, is very, very likely during these particular transits. And it is possible that you might make friends with somebody at work as well. When Mercury and Mars come into conjunction, you might make a connection to somebody who you end up kind of being like, hey, I can tolerate these people. Like, I might want to hang out with them. It's not just somebody who I would, potentially work with, but there could be a friendship there. The card that I get for you is the Nine of Coins. I like it. I think for me, this is like strong independent woman vibes. This is like going out there and doing it alone, not feeling like you're scared or embarrassed to go to a party stag or, afraid to go out and mingle on your own. It might mean that it's giving you the opportunity to meet the right individuals. Mars is first going to trine Saturn, so it might mean that you have to travel a little bit, or you might have to kind of get out there and kind of get outside your comfort zone. Then it's going to come into contact with Neptune. And so I feel like, especially if you're hoping to like connect with creative people or people who might kind of know the neighborhood or like they know areas better, if you're looking to relocate, joining like a group collective can be wonderful in that process. But Nine of Coins is about having wealth, having status, having freedom, being independent, and enjoying your own time. So it's not that you necessarily need friends, but you're looking for people who you might have some common ground with, and it's about getting out there and being confident enough to kind of go and connect, even if you're doing it alone, right? Good luck, Capricorn. We've got Aquarius and Aquarius rising. You're going to be experiencing Mars going through Scorpio in your natal 10th house. This is a very powerful transit for you, Aquarius, so get ready. You are going to see a ton of aspects in your chart. When Mars goes through the 10th house, career success and ambition are the main focus points. You're going to have a strong drive and desire to achieve your goals. And there's a huge focus on your public image. It's very important to you throughout these next few weeks. Leadership and authority positions are highly favored. So you've got so much working in your favor. And for one, Mars is extremely positive and very powerful when it goes through the 10th house. And this is giving you the opportunity to really focus on competition, competitiveness, really putting yourself out there and gaining recognition out in the world. People seeing you as somebody who is fierce and strong and very, very, very entrepreneurial or independent. Now, 2, Mars does very well in Scorpio. Granted, all of these planets are squaring your sign. So when planets are 10th house to your sign, it feels like work. So it doesn't come easy. You have to work and push hard to achieve it. And 2, you're also going to be seeing that at some point throughout the transit, Mars will come into an opposition with Uranus, which is the ruler of your sign. Something about also like, showing up at work and the challenges that causes at home or within the home base. Maybe, work is requiring you to move or relocate. Maybe there's something going on at home within the family and you're like, I can't, I'm busy. So there's a lot of getting pulled in both directions with the transits somewhere around the end of October, ish. Go back and look at the dates that I gave you for when Mars opposes Uranus. That's when it's going to be the strongest. However, what you do have working in your favor is that this particular transit starts with Mars and Saturn in a trine. And that's really positive because Saturn is also one of your co-rulers. So it's almost like all the work that you're doing out in the career world, the communicating, the connecting, the wheeling, the dealing, all that stuff is helping you really make sure that you have the resources necessary with Saturn in your second. And also it's helping you kind of like make money in a way that feels like it's good emotionally. It's in alignment emotionally. You only get Mars through this part of your chart every 2 years. So I feel inclined to tell you really make the most of it, especially that new moon that's coming in Scorpio. Yes, it's going to be very challenging. Yes, you're going to see oppositions to Uranus, but I feel like the work that you're doing now is very important and it might be setting the stage for what may potentially be a bigger change or a move sometime next year. Now, I say that because Mars has connections to your 3rd house of communication, movement, contracts, but also siblings and vehicles. So remember I said that, Aries is in conjunct, so it's kind of invisible. So there might be work that's going on that's going to bring unexpected communications, unexpected travels, or maybe potentially the need for you to relocate or just travel more regularly. You'll see this emerge in the spring of next year. And what I like about this is that this is going to have you writing more, traveling more, communicating more, being more independent. So if you're looking to like make a change in your status, especially work-wise, this is a wonderful time for you to do this as well. Lots of strength in building businesses, launching businesses, and bringing in new clients throughout this particular transit. You're also going to be seeing sextiles to Pluto, which is going to be in your 12th house. So this is telling me that it's giving you lots of support in getting ready to make some bigger changes or transformations to your career, but those also may not be more visible until closer to spring of 2024. The card that I get for you is the Ace of Cups. So this is about what you love, relationships, partnerships, right? Which is cool. The sun is there. So it can be a really big time for professional relationships, romantic relationships, but also just being very proud, right, of what you're achieving or who you're with or who you're working for. Status comes to mind in the 10th house, and the Ace of Cups is about new relationships. Generally, they're romantic, but this is also about investing yourself in things that you love or that you feel emotionally connected to or passionate about. I think a lot of this is the trines to Saturn. I think that you're going to realize that it is possible for you to have a job that feels good. It doesn't feel like you're having to sacrifice everything for it. It feels like it's in alignment and your intuition is helping kind of guide you in making some of the decisions that you're making when it comes to your professional life. But still, there can be some really big relationship things going on with the Ace of Cups, meeting somebody new, having a new partnership, having a new client, or maybe even somebody that you meet at work. Good luck. And then finally, we have Pisces and Pisces rising. You're going to be experiencing Mars going through the sign of Scorpio in your natal 9th house. This is a fellow sister sign, and you're going to benefit because you are going to be seeing that Mars will be trining Saturn in your sign as well as Neptune in your sign. So the beginning and the end portion of this transit is especially strong for you, Pisces. Now, Mars in the 9th house is going to have you feeling very adventurous, passionate about learning, eager to explore new horizons. So some of you guys might be traveling or going back to school. Because travel and higher education is associated with the 9th house, it's also going to give you the opportunity to, really focus on philosophical pursuits and your belief system in general. Law and legal related things as well as publishing comes up through the 9th house as well. I think about how Mercury and Mars will be meeting, and Mercury is relating to your relationships. So it can be about relationships with a teacher or a mentor, relationships with a lawyer, somebody who you're going to be traveling with, or somebody that you're going to maybe be meeting while you're traveling. I also think about Mars's connection to your 2nd house, which deals with money, resources, values, and self-esteem. So some of you guys are really going to be focusing on, spending more money or investing more money when it comes to education or travel. Some of you guys also may be contemplating or considering graduating, getting married, settling into a relationship, because the 9th house can be about ceremonies. And what is this going to do, right? A change in your belief system, a change in relationships, a change in education is supposed to be prompting you with the opportunity to feel more secure. The North Node in Aries in the 2nd house is about having more opportunities to make your own money, being more self-sufficient. So I could definitely see some people getting a certification, going through training, graduating, making it possible for you to be more independent when it comes to making money in the spring of 2024. I also, like I said, I like the fact that Mars is going to trine Saturn. So it's almost like you're committing to something. You're committing to a new belief system, or maybe you're traveling by yourself. You're committing to a goal, something that you've always wanted to do or somewhere you've always wanted to go. And then you're going to see Mars come into a trine with Neptune. And I do think that this is about like your beliefs and your vision finally kind of coming together. Really strong time for any spiritual practices or studying the metaphysical or esoteric topics as well, because it does kind of aid you in being able to kind of better guide your intuition, because Neptune to me seems like it doesn't have a lot of clarity. It is retrograde, so you might have visions and feelings, but you're not really sure like how to interpret them. So some of you guys might take up, learning tarot or astrology or working with some form of like divination to better kind of make sense of some of the things that are coming through. I love this for traveling. I would say pay attention because, like I said, during that eclipse, you are going to see Mars opposed Jupiter, and Jupiter is your ruling sign. So there can be a little bit of like some challenges revolving around traveling. There can be some things that can come up where there are some extra costs that you have to kind of deal with revolving around legal matters, travel, or education. Let's take a look. Let's see what the cards say for you. The card that I get is the Seven of Swords. I'm wondering if that's like the Mercury-Mars conjunction opposing Uranus. So Mercury rules relationships. The conjunction to Mars in the 9th house is like, can you take somebody's word for it? Can you trust them? Is your intuition telling you something is off? Are you trying to kind of like pinpoint or figure out why you have a feeling about something that your intuition is telling you? The Seven of Swords makes me feel inclined to tell you when it comes to the fine print on anything, you have to read it. Because it can mean that you overlook something. And I see that you have an eclipse in your 3rd house, which can talk about contracts or leases or something that you might be signing because it is conjunct Jupiter. Read the fine print. Don't rush through things. Seven of Swords can also talk about like where, we overlook something or someone comes into our life and it's like, can I trust this energy? Technically, the 9th house is going to be talking about like foreigners, teachers, anything like legal related as well. So with some of these oppositions, if you're questioning something, it might pay to actually get a second opinion before you sign a document and have somebody thoroughly look through it so you're not like getting swindled, because that is possible with this card. All right, guys. Well, I hope this is helpful in giving you some insight as to what to expect with this Mars in Scorpio transit. I'm really encouraging you guys to be really focused on having the courage to change and transform things. I promise you it's going to pay off. It's going to be worth it once we get to the spring of next year. Let me know, how are you guys feeling with this energy? What house is Mars transiting for you? And what kind of blind spots are coming up for you with that North Node in Aries? You can come back and you can leave comments on this channel. I always get a good chuckle reading them, especially somebody, I'm a Scorpio Sun, Aries Moon. So like the in conjunct is something I definitely understand. And I'm really curious to see how this manifests, because these are some aspects that I'm personally born with, and I'm also experiencing the trines between planets in Pisces as well. So I don't know. I'll circle back. I'll give you guys the full report. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Any interaction with the channel is super helpful. Even if it's just giving me a thumbs up, it really helps the algorithm and get this out into the interwebs. I will be back later tonight. You can catch me here later tonight. Go and check the community tab, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. I'm going to be doing live readings all evening on the solar eclipse in Libra. We are coming into it here very shortly this weekend. South Node eclipse, lots of relationship changes. Come join me if you guys would like to get a donation-based reading. I'll take a look at your chart and tell you what I think about the eclipse and how it's impacting you personally. If you guys like my content, you want to book a personal reading, head over to my website at beyondtheveiltarot.com. You can check out my schedule. We also have gift cards. I teach tarot and astrology, and we also have personal astrology reports and calendars, all that good stuff, candles. So if you want to support me as a full-time content creator, you guys can check that out or join my memberships. Until next time, I'll be back here, obviously later tonight, but I'll see you guys back here on Sunday for the astro weather. Enjoy this transit, and I will see you all very soon. Take care.